Hello, everyone, and welcome to Real Talk with Dr. Reshma. I am your host, Dr. Reshma, the Catalyst Coach. I coach and train students and professionals towards accelerated growth. I am on a mission to catalyze the lives of 1 million people through my personal development acceleration program. Today, we are going to talk very interesting things, and I'm sure you're excited as I am. Do you know that working in a toxic work culture is the biggest turn-off and the most prominent reason why people quit jobs? A research published in MIT Sloan says healthy work culture is 10 times more important than a great pay. Researchers analyzed in Glassdoor reviews that employees have described toxic workplace in 5 different ways. They've said it's non-inclusive, disrespectful, unethical, cutthroat, and abusive. Emotional toxicity is a general term used for negative emotions such as stress, anger, which have adverse effect on a person's well-being. Now, the question here is who is a toxic person? A toxic person is anyone whose behavior adds negativity and upsets your life. Many of times, people do not even realize that they are dealing with toxic people, the stresses and traumas. It is important for us to understand this, and especially toxicity at workplace. What does it look like? Today, we have with us a special guest who is going to help us understand this topic in the light of toxicity at workplace. I'm happy to welcome Ranu Khandelwal, an ICF life and leadership coach, behavioral facilitative trainer, NLP practitioner, EFT practitioner, psychologist. Oh my God. In just one breath, I had to tell so many things. She has a total experience of working in the corporates with 17 years of experience. She's conducted more than 100 workshops with more than 1,000 people. She has coached and mentored corporate professionals, entrepreneurs, business management students. Welcome, Rano, on Real Talk with Dr. Reshma. It is a pleasure to have you with us today.
Thank you, Dr. Reshma. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. So I know there are so many questions people are feeling that, listening, that what is this toxicity? Now, if any one of you have really faced toxicity in the workplace, please write in the comments, how did you deal with it and what kind of toxicity was it? Okay. In the meanwhile, we'll be talking to Rano about it as well. So, Rano, from a corporate world of finance and banking, what made you go in the direction of coaching, psychology, behavioral sciences? Just tell us a little about that exciting journey of yours.
So, Dr. Reshma, I've been always very much interested in behavioral sciences since as a college student. In fact, I had studied psychology at the time of my plus two, and then I did not opt it in the college. And I was feeling so sad that why didn't I study behavior? And then later I took it up as a side by side study along with my other studies. So psychology has been my core interest all my life because I used to observe people to the extent that they used to get very uncomfortable. And I used to always get these comments that, why are you staring? What is there to stare? So I wasn't actually genuinely staring them. I was trying to read their body language, read them. And I really didn't know why I was staring them. So slowly I started to understand when I started doing corporate work and that, okay, how people are, different types, different styles and all of it. And trust me, at the time when I was there in corporates, sometimes it used to be so difficult to understand difficult bosses. And my interest in training started to get more insightful there because when I used to get those difficult bosses, it used to be so sometimes so difficult to actually cross that border and line. And there used to also be other times where there used to be colleagues or your seniors or your bosses where I have faced glass ceilings, where while trying to grow up, or I have got faced those comments which are now coming under posh, which we did not know at that time that that's something called posh. But we did realize at an emotional level or an energy level that that's not okay for the person to say so. However, we couldn't define it very well. So in 2010, 11, when I left the job, that's a time, till that time, we did understand that, okay, there's a there's a thin border, regarding how people are communicating and how we are feeling in terms of like in Posh, we say, it's the intent that doesn't matter. It's the impact which matters because it becomes so simple for me to say, oh, that was a joke. I just shared it in a joke. How come you took it so seriously? You're such a well educated, uh, well mannered woman. I'm sure you have more reasons there. So this is toxicity, by the way, behaving and putting me down. It's called mansplaining. So absolutely a very toxic behavior. So at that time, didn't have a lot of clarity, but I knew this is not right the way they are communicating. So all of this got me into, wanting to get into training. Let me find out more. Why is it that I'm feeling? So completely, it was my own interest in terms of why I was feeling the way I was feeling and what I have to shift to bring changes. So I took up a course. I went ahead, did a image consulting course, and it took me almost 1 year. And then in 1 year time, by the time I finished the course, I realized it's more there than just the course. So psychology MA I then took up, and that's when the whole ball game started running up, and then I started realizing, oh my God, people are not aware, and we are dealing with this. So I don't say it is only there in the corporate; it's also there in the
Right.
personal front, because these are the same people who are there in the corporate and also in their personal life. So toxicity is something. A lot of times people don't realize also they're sitting in toxic behavior, so that's very saddening to see. And in India specifically, the awareness is very low awareness about what is the boundaries you need to create in corporate and personal life, be it even in any relationship, be it husband wife, be it boyfriend girlfriend, be it colleagues, be it your senior, be it your boss, be it your clients, anyone, everyone, your junior, everywhere. There has to be that boundary maintained every time. And that boundary, how do you maintain and why it is important to maintain? That's something very important for the emotional, mental, and physical well being.
Right, absolutely right, Ranu. You've really brought out such great insights because it is very important for us to understand. And I like what you said about intent and impact. It's not about the impact intent, but it's about the impact the words create. And sometimes people don't realize what they're doing to the other person, and in that, the person's well-being is compromised, right? and
Absolutely, absolutely.
and it becomes a major issue because neither the person realizes that the person is in a toxic kind of a relation or toxic environment, and neither does the person who is toxic realizes that, right, that the person is actually is very accumulating a toxic relationship. Okay, so it's very important for us to understand, especially when it is about jobs. Somehow it is like I spoke about the statistics. It is very clear that it's observed that people leave jobs because of unhealthy environment at workplace, and there's nothing much being spoken about at the workplace where they try to avoid that. So people quitting jobs is a huge loss, not only for the person, that the person is losing a job, but also the company, right?
Of course, of course.
So what
So
is
the
this whole thing, and
so
how
see
does it
every
really
time.
impact? Yeah.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you for this question. Every time a candidate is hired, there is a lot of monetary resources which has been spent on it. Okay, and once that person is trained and he stayed back in the company for a year, again, that training he undergoes, the time he spends in the company in understanding the job role and delivering, there's lots of time and money which is spent there. And it is always found that people never leave organizations; they leave managers. So managers are people. So people leave people. It's not the organization. And organizations are made up of people. At the end of the day, you have to work along with people.
Right.
So it happens so that there is very small things one can look out for to understand, is this person toxic or not toxic. For example, at an energy level, if I'm talking to you today and we both are having a conversation, and at the end of the conversation, if I'm feeling emotionally exhausted after an encounter with you, then yes, there is a level of toxicity there. There is something called discomfort there. You're not making me feel safe, and I'm not feeling safe. So, in any communication, one has to make the other person ensure that the safety is maintained. If the safety is broken, then absolutely the toxic behavior is on the road. Then there could be intimidating, which might be happening. Like there are a lot of times physically people intimidate by coming very close to you. If you're working, somebody will just come and very closely stand beside you. It might be very difficult for you to be comfortable there. So such actions could be very intimidating, or the tone of the person trying to tell you that no, you are wrong or you have done wrong. These kind of tone, and at the time where you're stressing on that word specifically, is also an intimidation which is happening there. Another toxic behavior could be is they're trying to control you by making you feel guilty about something which you might have done it and not be feeling guilty. You're not sitting on guilty, but they are making you feel guilty. Or it could be a jealousy. Jealousy is also an emotion which is very toxic. It could also mean is like sometimes you are constantly seeing them as a victim, like the victim card they keep playing, that no, you, because of you I am like this, because of you I'm like this, because of you this happened, because of you we lost this contract, this team, this client went away because you did this. So again, that's a toxic behavior. Backhanded compliments, it's like you complimenting them. Yeah, it's a good job, and then they're asking, I'm really, I don't know how, but how did you do it? Like, it didn't show that you could have done it, or it still doesn't sound okay. That what did you do to make it happen? That always a question mark, and they are making you question yourself on the confidence and on your own performance. So that
Right.
is again, and this there's a terminology used, and which is called gaslighting. So this is
Yes.
called gaslighting. Absolutely. And when you're gaslighting another person, you're making them feel non-confidence. Your self-esteem is actually destroyed. You actually start feeling there that no, I don't have it in me, and something is wrong with me, or that I'm good for nothing. These are the words generally people will come up with. I don't have that confidence that I can deliver. I'm feeling so low. I'm like, I don't think so. I really can do this. And all of that. So if this is a feeling your manager is giving you or your colleagues are giving you, then yes, boss, there is a gaslighting happening. And there should be a big red flag on top of your mind that this conversation is a wrong conversation. There could also be, very, very defensive behaviors which can come up, and that also means the person is behaving a toxic way.
Right.
So,
Right.
a toxic person, you can generally, in a very common language, if I have to say, they are very manipulative, a lot of times highly judgmental. They don't take any responsibilities for their own feelings. In fact, everything is happening to them is because of you.
Right.
The typical would be is, I'm angry because of you. That's the typical time. Most of the time, we say it without realizing it. Even to our children, we do that a lot of times. That's
Right.
actually gaslighting, making them feel small. And you are trying to tell them that, I'm hurt because you have hurt me. So nobody has that control over anyone until you give that control. So ultimately, it is a gaslighting approach. They would
Right.
never apologize because they never find themselves wrong. They'll always make you apologize for everything that is happening. And another very important thing you see is they're not consistent in their behaviors. For example, they'll tell you that, yeah, I'll call you back, but the call never comes. And if it is something really urgent to them, then only they'll call, and then they will show it like this, that, Arey, why did you call me? I was expecting your call. Again, the communication is a big factor there, which is the main reason for all this gaslighting to happen. And
Right.
you have to always prove yourself. Always prove yourself. So even if you have done amazing in projects, even then a new project comes, the manager is sitting there asking you, let's see what do you do about this.
Hmm.
So it's again like I'm proving myself again and again. So it's quite
Again and
heavy
again.
for me. It's
Right.
emotionally quite heavy for me because I'm not finding that ease to work in that environment. And
And also
if
the
it is
boundaries disappear, right? The boundaries disappear, which you've set for yourself also. They somehow disappear with this kind of a behavior, right? And these are
absolutely,
all red
absolutely.
flags, right, Ranu? You can call them red
Oh
flags,
yes, oh yes. Lying
right?
to you is a big red flag. If you catch someone lying to you, boss, that's a big red flag because that's gaslighting. Not
Yeah.
apologizing properly. They don't mean it. They might say that yeah, I'm sorry, but the way they have said it, you know that they don't mean it. It is again gaslighting. You
Right.
have to understand how their behaviors make others feel. If their
Mhm.
behaviors are not making you feel comfortable, it is another gaslighting. It's the third thing. And fourth thing would be is that they always show they are superior to others. They are someone, they'll always put you down, so they will make you
Right.
feel small and they are superior. And the fifth is that they will always project themselves as they are the victims. They are the victims. You
Yeah.
have because of you. So these
Yes.
are five flags. If you see these five flags happening in your life, quickly know that there's toxicity started in your life or this person is toxic. So
Right.
maintaining the distance is very important. And the worst part is, Dr. Reshma, it's very difficult to deal with toxic people because they're so manipulative that a lot of times this toxic behaviors would only be closely seen between you two and the person would not show it in front of others. So then it
Right.
becomes very, very difficult for you to pinpoint that to anyone. Even go and tell your manager that this is what is happening with me, or tell to the HR also that my manager is doing this, and I
Yeah.
am feeling so uncomfortable because those behaviors are very silent behaviors sometimes. It
Right.
could be
Right.
also in emails you can see the tone of the language used in the email.
Right. So Rano, how then can we deal? Because see, it's so difficult initially when a person joins a new organization and or is in a new project. You want to prove your mettle, and you go out of your way. You just dissolve all the boundaries. Go, but then how does a person set boundaries in such kind of an environment where the boss is gaslighting, is showing passive aggression, is making you feel guilty about everything? Because these are the kind of questions that keeps repeatedly coming to me, Rano, when my coaches also come, because they have the similar kind of problem. So what is the best way to deal with it, Rano?
Identifying the toxic person is very important. First you have to identify toxicity. Now, I have given you certain description of what is toxic
Right.
behaviors.
Right.
Now, if you have been able to identify these toxic behaviors, then learn to know how you can deal with this person. All right. So now, dealing with this person can only happen through very specific things. One is always having clear communication with them, always making them responsible towards what they're communicating. It is not easy, trust me, to deal with toxic people because if they are specifically sitting in unawareness, you can't deal with them because they would again and again and leave that loop. And this is not easy because again I've seen that sexual harassment and toxicity sometimes goes hand in hand.
Yes, I
All
agree.
right, it goes hand in hand, and it can be from both the people. It's not that only men do it; even women do it. So toxicity is something you just can't do anything with them. You just can do is work on your own self. So when you work on your own self, then you have to understand. You work on your own emotions. You work on your own communications. You work on your own values, beliefs, and attitudes. You work on the roles which you are going to be playing. So everything has to be penned down, written down, clearly defined, taken permissions. So move from verbal communication to written communication always, always include a third person between you and the toxic person in
Hmm.
communication, even if it is a manager. Involve the team together to do all the roles and goals setting of the whole team.
Hmm.
Never ever do any kind of important discussion one on one. If even if the manager wants you to do one on one, kindly make notes. Kindly, when we always have a meeting, we make minutes of the meeting. Please make minutes of the meeting, put it down on the email and send it to the manager, marking a CC to the concerned authority, so that you are all aligned. If there is any changes, he will tell you that okay, this is it, so that again the alignment is this.
Right.
100%, it is again not something I would say you can really deal with it. If you are stressed and you're not able to perform, the best is to look out for another job. That's the last lead, because it's better to change the job than to deal with a toxic person. Because when you're dealing with a toxic person, you are losing your own self out, and that is the worst thing to
Absolutely.
happen in that
Yeah.
whole situation. Because dealing with toxicity is something you can pinpoint to others that okay, this person is going through toxicity. You have to understand them that any person is toxic is because there has been some traumatic incidences in their lives during the time when they were growing up, which in that moment of their time when toxicity, that trauma happened, nobody was there to guide them or to help
Hmm.
them process that trauma in a way which was a healthy way of
Right.
experiencing it, accepting the emotions, feeling it, being in the emotions, able to express the emotions, and telling that it's okay to be in this emotion.
Hmm.
The
Hmm.
toxicity the builds up when that trauma, I don't know how to process that trauma. So when I
Hmm.
don't know how to process that trauma, now I'm feeling really horrible inside, and I
Hmm.
don't know what to do to come out of this. So I would adopt any behavior which will help me to feel better.
Hmm.
That could be any behavior. It could be anger, something which I have to feel better. Then I have to put others down. That's the basic human way of behaving. That I want to feel better, I will put you down. So this is the
Right.
first way a person learns. This is one of the ways a person learns to do, and this is toxicity.
Hmm.
Okay, and then not accepting that it's my mistake, because it is my mistake, but I have not learned to accept my mistake. Nobody has taught me how to process it. So then
Right.
I will never apologize, and I would
Hmm.
always create difficulties in communication in such a way that you would never understand what is the
Hmm.
clear goal. So,
Right.
moving the person from not clear to clear goals is one way. Moving the person from irrelevant to relevance,
Hmm.
and that can happen when you help them identify their values, beliefs, attitudes.
Hmm.
So, putting everyone in a space where a personal development is happening in the organization at every level, for every
Hmm.
manager or also
Hmm.
the team, that is one of the ways one can help them grow in their lives. Even the toxic people need to grow, and
Yeah.
to help them grow, you can't tell them you're wrong, because they'll never accept it that I'm
Hmm.
wrong. They
Hmm.
never accept it. Even if people are in awareness that yeah, I'm creating toxicity, even then they cannot accept it because they lack courage, because they
Right.
have
So you
not
have to
learned.
deal with them in a very different way. You have to deal with them in a very different way so that
Right.
they are not feeling, targeted in any way, and they are not
Correct.
made to
Correct.
feel isolated, targeted in any way, and then you can do that. Okay.
Yeah, because if you're feeling isolated, what
Mhm.
happens is my guards are again up.
Up.
I'm like
Right.
again, completely going to I'm manipulated. Remember that, because that's my guard manipulation,
Yeah.
being in anger. These are my guards. So if
Right.
my guards are up, then it is more difficult for me for you to deal with me. But if I am showing supportive behavior towards them, if I'm showing understanding towards them, and if I'm being in assertive communication, not aggressive,
Right.
understanding, that's when they kind of lower their guards. And that's when a counseling could be given or done with them. So,
Yeah.
decision making, like let's say decision making, these people will never take decisions. It's so difficult for them to take decisions. So,
Hmm.
you have to push them to take decisions based on the agreements. Remember always to have agreements before helping them take decisions. Help
Right.
them to express themselves, get them to discuss and talk more, because they would always want to know more about you. For example, if I'm a toxic person, Dr. Ishmael, have hundreds of questions on your life, on what you do
Mm,
and all. But if you're
mm,
asking me any question, I'll just give you one statement. I would not
right.
share with you about my life. You'll not get to know much about me.
Mm,
So then
mm,
I'm not expressing it because I'm afraid I'm sitting in that trauma of expressing that feelings. My
mm,
listening might be will be very alternative, like
mm,
selective listening. What I think is valuable in what you're saying, I'll just pick that. I will not
right.
listen completely. So I'm not
Right.
knowing what is the emotion you're going through. I would discard that emotion. I would only pick up that. See, this is how you talk. See, these were the words you shared. See, you are
Yeah.
actually sitting in the blame game. You're sitting here. You're not absolutely doing what you have to supposed to do. So why can't you just be non-emotional when you're talking to me for some times? That's how
Mm,
they would talk.
right.
Self disclosures they don't do. They're not, as I told you, they don't talk about themselves. They never
Mm,
resolve conflict. They will ignore, leave it aside. They will say, no, there is no conflict. They won't even recognize there's a conflict. So
right.
then you have to make them recognize, boss, this is the conflict and we need to
Mm,
resolve this. So it's always better you have third person, fourth person together to deal with toxic person. Never
right.
alone. They
Never.
in alone, yeah, they will never be. You will never be able to,
Mm,
really bring them down because they would trigger you. If you are emotional person, vulnerable person, they will highly trigger you. Even if you're not, and if you are a very balanced person, then the way they are going to be hammering you on your credibility, on your accountability, on your performance, that you would start feeling low. And that is what they want. They want to break that wall so that they can show their superiority and they can hook yourself with the attachment. So it's a behavior of, like how the climbers get
yeah.
attached to the tree. They're not
Tree.
able to climb without it, no? So that's
Yeah.
what they want. They want that you get become a climber, and you kind of, they keep you attached to themselves.
Right.
And so
Right.
it is so difficult to then deal with them.
Right. Beautiful, Ranu.
This
You like put it
how it is.
so beautifully with that whole analogy that, like climbers. And yes, absolutely right. Thank you so much for that. So here we have Manasvi who had mentioned this question that how do a person become toxic or behave in a toxic way? That I think you have already shared that they are into trauma and that is the reason that this is the way they have their guards on and this is the way that is their defense mechanism, right? So to
Yes, correct. So it's not that
yeah,
they are sitting in trauma today. Some
right. They
trauma
have
happened,
been,
and they learned the process of how to deal with it on their own, and this was the best for them. What they
right.
learned,
Yeah.
and
So at
nobody
that point of
untaught
time,
them.
This worked for them at that point of time, and then they have made it a pattern that this will always work, and that's how they have been doing it, right?
Very true, very true. Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember when I was in sales, there was one
Yeah.
of the person
Yeah.
who said that, the best sales how you can do. A manager who told me. I said, how? I said, you always have to put your client down, so down, make them, break their self esteem to a level that
Yeah.
they will, be so desperate to buy your product. I said, I don't think so. That's the right way of doing it. But
Yeah.
he said he was so hooked to it, and that's when I started realizing, in every discussion I had with him, he used to always overpower me to an extent that I could not voice out even my simple emotion to him that I'm not liking this discussion anymore. And that's
Right.
when I moved my department, changed my department, and changed my role so that I could be away from him. So
Right.
I could deal with this is because at the energy level I was aware. I'm
Yeah.
a very intuitive person right from a childhood, and
Yeah.
I can sense that intuitiveness. But not everyone is
Mm.
intuitive. Not everyone can feel the energies, and they work through their energies. So for
Mm.
them, they kind of come into the grip of it, and that's how this whole drama. It's actually, I will say, drama. So when in
Right.
transaction analysis we talk about, so this is how a toxic person will create a drama,
Drama. Right.
and yeah, and
And-
wherever that person is, everyone around him or her will be clutched in that drama. They cannot
right.
leave that drama because it is
Yeah.
so
Integral
manipulative, and it
part,
is so
integral part of them, right? That drama is that
correct,
because
correct.
I think they thrive on that, right, Rano? They thrive on
Oh
it,
yes, Oh
because till
yes,
there is
yes,
no
yes.
drama, they will not want, their life will be like lousy and lazy and I don't know what not, right? So
They
for
might
them,
get
the drama
depressed.
is something that
Yeah,
brings
absolutely.
excitement, right?
So they you need to
Absolutely.
work with them on the emotions, how they can
Right.
actually uh, how do you say process the emotion in a way which is a healthy way and a healthy outcome for not themselves but also
Right,
others.
right. Even Geeta here is saying that they gain impudent confidence from the fact that they can get away. It is like ganging up. And she's also saying that goading is their way to get you to react, right? And it
Super,
is. They
super.
are looking for that reaction from you. And if you don't give them the reaction, they may not enjoy it. And then they may not do what they're doing because that is what they
Correct.
love about you, right? That reaction that they get.
Yes, 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 yes. And
Lovely,
it's not that
lovely.
they're not fun to be. Sometimes they're so
Yeah,
fun to be. They will be like they're highly witted people. They will
yeah.
love to, do fun if they are that kind of, that's a basic nature. They would do all
Right,
of that, and they
right.
would want your response also very quick. That okay, somebody is really, rhyming with them and giving that response. But that is
Yeah.
that kind of fun, happy behaviors last only for certain extent, and
Right,
then as they see that you're no more now indulging in their way of response, then they start reprimanding you, pulling you down, uh,
yes,
being their right behavior. So ideally,
absolutely.
it is something like it is my way or highway for them. You exactly
Yes,
be in the way I want you to be, the way I want you to
mm,
behave. So this is all gaslighting. This is all
yes.
gaslighting. And at times they can be so narcissist because it is all about them. It's nothing about you there.
That's true.
Nothing
That's true.
about you.
Nothing about you. Great. Thank you so much for this. We'll just get into our trivia round where I'll be asking you simple questions, which I want some real one word, two word answers from you. Okay. So let's go ahead.
Sure, let's see.
Okay. So the trivia round begins. Okay. So, what is your mantra to deal with a toxic boss?
My mantra to deal with the toxic box, I think I've already shared communication.
In
Work on
one word,
communication.
communication. Awesome.
Communication.
So clear communication, that's the
Clear
mantra, right?
communication. Yeah,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. So how do you set boundaries by communicating clearly? How can you set that boundary?
Assertive communication. Following my
Okay.
assertive communication.
Okay. Lovely, lovely. What is your best advice to people working in a toxic culture?
You come first, guys. Always remember. If you can't
Sorry?
handle it, I'm saying you come first. Everyone,
Okay.
remember that you come first. So if
Okay.
you think you can handle it and you're growing, even after the toxicity, you're able to manage growing and it is not affecting your emotional, mental health, and also not your family and your relationships, great. Continue.
Okay.
You're doing well. If you
Great.
can't, immediately move out. Generally, I don't give this advice, but in toxicity, you can create lot more pain for your own self trying to make the toxic person better than have a better life.
Okay, thanks for that. One last question. What is one power habit that you follow to ensure good relations at workplace?
Thank you for asking me this. So I believe in relationship building, and I always check in with every person, whoever I am there communicating. So small, tiny habits like good morning, wishing good morning, greeting them, spending just small 2 minutes, 5 minutes conversation, asking them on their personal life, not just I take interest on people. So I would say 80% time listening in the conversation and 20% time is only asking questions. That is one of the key mantra I follow always in building this relationship. So that's very important.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. That's awesome. I just enjoyed talking to you, Rano. Thank you so much for being here on the show and talking about such a pertinent issue that we all, at some point or the other, have faced or are facing, right, at the workplace. And what we do is either we quit or lose our mojo, right? So your suggestions and tips, I'm sure, will benefit the people who are listening and are viewing us, and I am sure they'll get a lot of ideas to deal with it. And the whole thing begins with self. Like we say, change starts with self, so they'll have to first know about it, identify it, and then go ahead and deal with it. So, hey, beautiful people out there, hope you've benefited from the talk today and will apply the learnings from today. So, thank you
Thank you
once
so
again.
much.
Ranu. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much, Dr. Reshma. Thank you so much, Dr. Reshma, for having me here. This is really beautiful, and I think so personal development is the way for even a toxic person to improve their lives. Because a lot of times we don't know. We ourselves, you and me might also be having one toxic behavior, which we might be sitting on. So recognizing that is very important for a healthy, future.
Lovely, lovely. Thank you so much. So, guys and girls, please feel free to connect with me if you have any queries or you need any support. Shower your love and encouragement by liking, commenting, and sharing on this show today. We are more than happy to get suggestions on topics you would like to be covered. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done it yet. And as usual, we promise to keep it real and talk about things that matter to me and to you. Bye for now. Take care and see you in the next episode. Love and light to all.